you today? My name is Shannon and this is my YouTube channel, Whiskey and Wool. This is my Knitter's Life series, Season 5, Episode 6. Welcome. Thanks for checking me out or coming back. I really appreciate you and I really enjoy sharing my projects and things with you and hearing about yours. These are going to be famous last words, but I have a feeling this will not be a very long episode. I do have a few updates. I have a new cast on. If you didn't happen to watch Cast On with me, that the video I put up last week, if you did, you're going to know what I'm going to talk about. If you didn't, you're in for a surprise. I was surprised with how it was with my choice. Anyway, welcome. So I do have a finished object. It is finally off the needles, my Inge sweater solo, and apologies for not wearing it or having Martha wear it, but it is still very wet. I finished it yesterday. It's been drying about 18 hours now and it is still very, very wet. It's just the nature, I think, of superwash wool, or non-superwash wool that's, heavier than fingering weight, tends to really hold the water. But there you go. You can get a good gander at it. I will put updated pictures on my Ravelry project page with me in it and on social media. Oh, by the way, I'm on Bluesky and Instagram and Ravelry. I probably post the most project updates on Ravelry. I'm trying to do better with the other two social medias, but often when I look at those apps, I get distracted and forget that I was there to post something, and then I have to go do something else. So, so Inge sweater solo. What can I tell you about it? It was a slow knit. It took me 3 months, which we established in my cast on with me that 3 months seems to be my average for sweaters lately. I want to do better. I used to be able to make a sweater a month, no problem. I think I'm just knitting less. It's not that I'm slower or anything. I just am distracted with other things, perhaps. Who knows? But yeah, I didn't really like knitting colorwork in the round and small circumference that the sleeves went a little slower than I thought. I thought I would be able to get the sleeves done in about a week, but it took me 2 weeks to get both sleeves done. And a lot of it was just like I knit mostly when I do a sleeve. I knit on small circumference needles, like a 16-inch for pretty much down to about the middle of the forearm until it's too tight to move the stitches around. And then, of course, the cuff, I use Flexi Flips, which is my go-to for knitting socks too. I use Flexi Flips, which I'll show you because I have a sock here that I'm going to talk about. But it's like this needle, like this style. So I prefer this over Magic Loop or double points. This is kind of a hybrid between Magic Loop and double points because you use only 3 needles and you're splitting the stitches in 2 just like you are in Magic Loop, but there's no cord to pull. So it's the same movements that you do with Magic Loop, only you're not pulling that cord through when you get to the other side. It's just because the cord is dinky. And you can see, like, these are ones I've used for a long time. They end up kind of being a U shape because I end up pulling in the middle to get the needles to match up. That is all good. Yeah, so I didn't really like that part. I ended up stabbing my index finger several times with very pointy needles that I was using. I was using Hiya Sharps, too sharp for the snugness of colorwork stitches on that needle, and it was not enjoyable. It's funny, I like to make socks. I like to have socks on the needles. I tend to do a pretty vanilla sock, like just a ribbing stitch. And I've been wanting to make colorwork socks, but now I'm like, I don't know if I want to do colorwork socks, because doing colorwork in a small circumference is not really that fun. It's kind of, I know it like would be small. It would be about, yeah, it'd be like half a sleeve, I guess, to do a sock. And if you didn't do colorwork on the foot, might be okay. I don't know. To be continued. We'll figure that out some other time. So the yarn for the Inge sweater solo, I ended up using less than what the pattern called for. It happens. My main color is this beautiful farm yarn. Nice, rich, dark chocolate brown from Renninger Yarn Company, and it is her Better Together DK from 2024, and Holly and Sweet Pea are the sheep that made the wool, made the yarn, grew the wool, were sheared, and then became the yarn, the fiber became this yarn. Yeah, it's lovely. It's 100% natural colored merino, 225 yards, 3-ply DK weight. 3-ply is my favorite. And yeah, 90% actually from Holly and 10% from Sweet Pea. I'm sure the rest of Sweet Pea's wool went into another one of Jenny's yarns. The colors I used are by Jill Draper Make Stuff. I bought 3 skeins of this beautiful pale blue, like greenish blue, turquoise perhaps even. And this is what's left of the second skein. I still have a full skein now, so maybe I can make a matching hat or something. And then this is about half a skein of the colorway Carnelian. So this is Jill Draper Make Stuff, her Windam base, which is American grown and spun wool. No idea what breed the sheep are. It might be a blend. But yeah, pretty nice, decent size skein, 4-ounce skeins. Pretty good. I forgot to tell you that I am wearing the Tessellated vest by Andrea Mowry. I knit this whenever Tessellated came out. Was it 2 years ago, in 2023? I think so. I actually made 2 of them. This one, I think I had the yarn. No, I bought the black. The black is Le Garçon. And then the fuzzy green is by Moondrake, Brush Cashmere, which I think I had on hand. And then the other, the color changing, which doesn't change all that much, is a Spin Cycle. I guess you could see it's kind of tan here, and then it goes to like a blue-gray. Pretty much just does that. Goes from like a camel color to blue-gray, and then back to camel again. It's really great. I get so many compliments. I love how this pattern kind of looks like a tweedy plaid or check fabric. Really cool. I like that. It's kind of a menswear feel. I'm wearing this today because it's very warm out. I have my windows open, and there's like a really warm breeze blowing through the apartment. It's lovely. I hope it doesn't rain so I can keep the windows open. So yeah, it's a little warm for a sweater, which would mean that I would probably not wear the Inge sweater solo by Lene Samsoe Holme, if I didn't say that already. But Martha would have been. Martha's right here, my mannequin. That was a real convoluted way to tell you what I'm wearing and show you my finished object. Let's see if I can stay more organized for my whips. Since I have my sock out, I'm going to just talk about that. I am using this is probably like, I don't know, the 20th or 30th pair of DRK Everyday socks that I modified to work. I'm on the leg right here. There's the heel. I modified to work with DK weight, and then she came out with Bear Paw, and her Bear Paw pattern used a bigger needle than what I had used to modify, so I just stuck with what I developed myself. And her pattern was definitely helpful though for doing other sizes, especially for my granddaughter, who is a 4-year-old, so smaller feet. And her pattern, Andrea's sock patterns, both of those, the Echeveria and Bear Paw, both are like a really wide range of sizes, like from newborn tiny baby up to like maybe 6-month-old baby up to, I don't even know how big. Pretty big. I think there's 10 sizes, 9 or 10 sizes. Anyway, I love it. It's my go-to pattern. It's just, you do a fleagle heel, so it feels pretty seamless when you're knitting it. And these are my on-the-go project, a project that I will throw in my handbag to take out when I'm on my way out to work or to hang out with friends or family, and just to have something with me. I also am known to knit in the car when I'm stopped in traffic, which happens a lot around here. I live just outside of New York City, right across the Hudson River in New Jersey. We have a gorgeous view of New York right outside my front door. It's nice, very nice. I always joke that I don't know what they see from their side, but from our side, it's really beautiful. The yarn that I'm using is by Mustache, and it is as I said, a DK, and it is, the color is called Kama. And I shared last time in my last episode when I had just started these that it's her oldest running color. And I think this might be, no, I'm doing yellow next. I was going to say, I think this is the whole repeat that you're seeing here, but there is a yellow and then a gold, and then it starts over. So there's like, these two colors will repeat again, and then it'll start over here and then go all the way through. This skein of Mustache, the dyer gives you 2 matching halves of a full skein, and they're separated, so you just cake them and you're ready to go. And so you just make sure you're starting at the same end, but they will they'll match pretty well. I've made several pairs of these with this yarn, and sometimes they're off by a row or so. The only time I've noticed is when I've been following a pattern when I'm knitting 2 at a time. When I'm knitting, I usually knit one and then I'll knit the other, but when I'm knitting 2 at a time, that's when I usually am like, oh wait, they're off by a row. But it's fine, it's hand-dyed, so that happens, and it's not noticeable in the finished sock. So yeah, I'm still on my first sock. I haven't spent a lot of time knitting it these past 2 weeks since I last did an episode. Another thing I have not really spent a ton of time on is my awesomer Gossamer shawl by Stephen West. This is just such a nice chill knit. So not typical Stephen, I think. Like it, because it's just one stitch pattern, this bubble stitch. There's a garter stitch panel that you start with, and then it's one stitch pattern throughout. And, there is a border, which I haven't really looked at the directions, so I'm not really sure. I think it's a kind of there's some yarn overs in there, I think, like a little lacy looking. But yeah, this is real pleasant because it's just so easy to just pick up and put down, and you're basically doing stockinette through the whole thing, except for every so often you're doing this textured stitch where you're creating this bubble. You're doing like you're dropping your needle down and several rows and picking up a stitch and pulling it up. So yeah, it's super fun, and it's a marled knit made from 8 colors of yarn. And I think last time, this is how little I've knit on it, I think last time I was like at the beginning of this section right here, so I finished that, and I've done this, and I'm like almost done with this section here, and then I will be changing to this colorway and then that colorway, and then I move on to the 4th section of the shawl. There's 5 sections total. But, you know, I did warn you that this would be on my needles for quite some time. Because it's just not wearable in the near future because it's warming up here. And this is really like unbelievably thick. The pattern was designed for an unbelievably thick fabric. It feels like it's going to be so warm. The pattern was designed for mohair silk, and when it came out and I knew that Stephen was doing a knit along, I thought to myself, like, I think I have some lace weight Surrey silk and cashmere, brushed cashmere silk yarns that will make a palette so that I can make this. And I was right. I only needed to buy one of the 8 colors. So these colors, these yarns are all from my stash. Some of them are, most of them actually, all of them, all but one are leftovers from previous projects. I just had overbought, like you can do sometimes. So colors wise, this one, and this one are all Moondrake brushed cashmere silk, electric lilac, electric berry, and quartz, rose quartz maybe. This one and this one are La Bien-Aimée Surrey silk, floral morganite, and wisteria. This one is, oh, it's actually connected. This is Surrey silk from Lamb & Kid Pop Rocks. This is a Italian brushed cashmere silk lace. This is the only one that I was not project leftovers, but I did have it in my stash from 2019 from my last trip to Italy. I just wanted to pick up some yarn, some souvenir yarn, and I didn't have a plan, and it turned out like I really didn't buy enough for it to be its own project, so it needed to be incorporated with something, so it's just as well. And then this last color is a by Kinua. I think I have the tag. No, that's La Bien-Aimée. I know I have the tag. Maybe the tag. Ah, here it is. This is I've talked about this before, an alpaca mohair silk blend. So it's got both alpaca, Surrey alpaca, and the kid mohair, which is pretty interesting. It's super, super soft and silk all together. And this is the company name, Kinua. They are a Peruvian-based yarn company, but I think you can definitely find yarn shops that have this yarn, and if you searched them, it was pretty affordable. She had a good, the salesperson, I don't know if she was the owner, but she had a pretty good show deal. I bought this at Vogue Knitting Live because what I ended up doing was making a swatch card of the colors I had, and then I went in, I took this with me and looked for something that would help with one of the transitions or the other, and yeah, I think it all works pretty well together. This is a nice balance of some pale pastels, some muted pastels, and then some brights. And then in the pattern too, you hold 2 strands together. So the current section, I'm using these 2 together. So you line up the colors in a gradient order, and then you're holding 2 together at all times. See, so I was holding these 2 right here. Now I'm holding these 2, and then finally this will drop out, and in its place will come the palest color again. So you kind of go in that order. Oh, sorry, the floral morganite, and then this. So you kind of go in that order. Which it's really cool because it just ends up making it like such a really interesting fade. Like if when I saw the pattern, I didn't realize that's what we were gonna do. And once I did, like once I purchased the pattern and I was shopping for that last color, that 8th color, I was like, oh, this is actually gonna be easier than I thought, because I didn't have to find a color that would make that transition for me, because the blending of the 2, the marling together, was gonna do that. in a much more effective way than I ever could. But you can definitely see it now that I've explained it. You can see the blending of the colors happening in each section. Yeah, it's pretty. It's a fun knit. I've got to get this done though before, or it'll just get put aside before it gets too hot and humid here. But our hot and humid days start usually in June, so I have some time. I hope I'm done with this by June. I think I will be. It's actually moving faster than I thought it would, even though I haven't done much. I really probably knit on it maybe 1 hour or so, like not very much. I was trying really hard to get the Inge sweater done, so I tend to do that. Like I'll kind of dabble in my different knits that I have on the needles, and then when I see one is close, I'll make myself just continue to work on that until it gets there, until it makes it to the finish line. I have a new cast on. So last episode 5, not cast on with me, of Knitter's Life, I shared with my viewers that I was undecided on what to cast on next. I had several things that I was excited equally about each of them, and I could be persuaded to cast on any one of them. So I allowed you to persuade me by putting out a poll and asking you to vote on the poll to give me, and then I would go with the majority of what folks wanted. And the options were a self-striping hand spun that I made, a solid, semi-solid turquoise, bright turquoise yarn that I had hand spun, and then some Jill Draper royal blue, or cobalt blue fingering weight that I was going to combine with a white fingering weight to make a colorwork sweater. Those were the options. And what won was the beautiful turquoise yarn that I had just finished spinning. So this is what won. And I talked through last week, or in my cast on with me, about how I chose the pattern. And when I was knitting, so this is the pattern so far. When I was, spinning this, I was thinking a lot about what did I want to make with it. And I ended up with about 1,000 yards, and the weight of it was sport weight. And a lot of that, the yardage that I get and then the weight that I end up spinning, has a lot of influence over what pattern I cast on. So often when I'm in the midst of spinning, I don't have really a good idea. I have a sort of an idea of the weight that I'm going to get and a bit of an idea about the yardage that I'm going to get. Once I get one skein done, I have a better idea of yardage because I bought 3 4-ounce braids of this. This is the fiber was by Yarn Jam, and it's Shiniko, which is a crossbreed sheep Rambouillet, and the cross is Rambouillet Merino. Super soft and gorgeous fiber that I spun into a 3-ply, and I bought 3 4-ounce braids, divided them in 3 each, and then from each braid I took a strip and made one skein so that I wouldn't have any color variation, because even though I wasn't seeing a color variation with, at that point when I was dividing the fleece, I wasn't sure if I would see it once it became yarn, because when it's fleece and fluffy and there's all this texture, you might not necessarily see some of the nuances of the colors that you would then see when it's all smooth and flat. So I ended up with 3 matching skeins, and there was definitely some color variation within the yarn, which I don't think you'd really see here, but I can see it. There's some lighter patches that appear occasionally in the yarn, but it looks fine because it's 3 strands together that make the yarn. So in terms of that, I knew I wanted to do a textured pattern, and I ended up choosing one of my own patterns, which I think might have been the last pattern I published. I have done some independent pattern writing and published patterns on Ravelry, and this is the Rye Layering Tee, and this is basically It will be, I believe it'll be long sleeve. It may end up being 3/4 sleeve, just depending on my yarn, but I think I have enough yarn to do long sleeve. It's a pattern that's designed for you to choose your own adventure in terms of a rib stitch or stockinette if you want. You could do stockinette. I have seen people do stockinette with this pattern. But the specs and stuff are really geared for knitted fabric or ribbed fabric, which tends to have a little bit more built-in give to it than stockinette does. It collapses more on itself, as you're seeing here, because it looks real tiny. It should be fitting my. It should be actually. This pattern is a set-in sleeve, so this. Well, again, it's on a short needle too, but this section should be fitting about, you know, it's this. So I'm right now beginning to shape this part so I'm extending. The rows are growing to get the extension that I need for the garment to come around and meet at the side seams. So it's a top-down pattern. You can do a crew neck or a Henley. This is the back. And once I'm done doing the armhole shaping, this piece doesn't go on hold exactly. Then from here, what I'll do is come back up to this shoulder, cast on one of the fronts, do the front to a point where then I can join. I'll do the other front and then they get joined, and then the front is completely knit to the armhole, to the same spot where this one will have been put on hold, and then they're joined in the round. The necklines are crew neck and Henley, and I think I'm going to do a Henley neckline, which is like a little 3-button, or you could do as many buttons as you want, but a short, like probably 4-inch. It's got a dip down like this sweater does, and then there's like a little button placket that goes right here. I think that's what I'm going to do with this, but I'm really loving it so far. The rib stitch I was influenced by a pattern called Coffee Date by, I think the designer's name is Samantha Gurin, but I'll put it on screen here. I was going to use her pattern, but her pattern is made for a heavier yarn than the yarn I ended up spinning. And my pattern was designed for sport weight. This is sport weight, and it's working. And like my gauge was spot on. It was, yeah, everything worked just fine. So yeah, so you're seeing the back here. This would be the back neck, and the knit stitch will open up and relax a bit in blocking, so it won't be quite as narrow as what you're seeing. But again, this is meant to be this piece that would, like, it's meant to be closed in. Like if you look at the width of the shoulder here, that's pretty much what you're getting here. And then there'll be like a rib trim, and then here on this side there'll be a sleeve. So yeah, it's a pretty fun little knit stitch. I didn't buy the pattern that had this on. I just looked at the picture and said, I think this is what's happening. So what I ended up making, inspired by that pattern, it is a 2x2 rib stitch where you knit 5 rows, and then you do 2 rows of stockinette, and then you do 10 rows of 2x2, and then 2 rows of, so etc., etc. So that's the stitch. But I really like it. I love the way it looks. It's gonna be fun. So it's been hard not to just work on this alone, because it's a new project and it's exciting, and just really want to work on it. Did I say the name of the pattern? I don't think I said the name of the pattern. I said it was mine. It's Rye Layering Tee is the name of the pattern. You can also do a sleeveless version. I have a couple that I've made sleeveless versions. I made one in brushed cashmere. I made one in I did color block stripes in one, and then I did one in like a tweedy indie dyed color. The 3 long sleeve ones were destroyed in a moth infestation that happened years ago. because this pattern came out in 2020, it's probably right after that, because I had all 3 of those made, and yeah, it was a pretty bad infestation. I lost a lot of knits in that infestation, sadly, but it happened. It's fine. So that's why I'm making another one. What else? Oh, I do have, so spinning, let me talk about spinning real briefly. I don't really have anything to show this week because I am actually almost done with spinning my latest spin. It's on my spinning wheel. I was a little nervous, like I thought about recording tomorrow, but just to show it, but I was like, no, it's not worth it. So I'll just show you next time. I'll talk you through the whole thing. I may have more than just that one project. I'm sure I will, actually. And I do have some stash that I got, some new stash. Other than the yarns that I bought at Vogue to help me use yarn that I have in my stash for projects, the blue and white plaid that I mentioned before, and the pink yarn that I bought for the Gossamer. I really haven't bought any yarn. I haven't bought any yarn this year. So there was a sale. Church Mouse Yarn and Tea in Washington is closing out all its yarn. So I'm pretty sure there's probably still stuff you could get. They started out at 20% off, and then they were slowly making the percent higher. The plan was to make the percent higher, so it may even be a bigger discount. But I took the opportunity of their sale to pick up some Brooklyn Tweed Arbor, which is some Targhee in black, because I figured I love black. I love to wear black, so black sweater, great. So it's the colorway Kettle. I have a sweaters quantity. I'm just not showing you all 9 or 10 skeins, however many I have over there. It's a DK wool, and these are half skeins, so I think they're 50 grams or 2-ounce skeins, something like that. If only I didn't have old eyes and could read what the yardage is. But anyway, I did the math on the yardage to figure out how much I needed and made sure I ordered enough. So I don't know what this will be. This is just going to go into stash, and perhaps I will cast it on later this year. But happy to have some. Black is my favorite color, one of my favorite colors to wear, as you can see. And so I'm always glad to have another black sweater, even though knitting black yarn is not the most, it can be a little challenging, I guess. So that is that. Oh my goodness, I think that might be all I have. I do want to just do a quick shout out to a viewer who generously gifted me a skein of yarn for my Gossamer, because I complained a couple weeks ago, or I mentioned a couple weeks ago, that this color, Electric Lilac from Moondrake, was the only yarn in that pattern, in that project, that I didn't have a backup skein. I only had what was left, and it's a pretty small little bit, and I wasn't sure I was going to make it through the shawl with that color, and I was sort of in my head figuring out how I was going to fudge it. But someone reached out to me, a viewer reached out to me, and told me she had some. I really tried hard to pay her, and she insisted that she wanted the karma instead, which I appreciate, because I would do the same thing. I would take the karma over the money. So I now have a backup skein of that color. So thank you so much. I am deeply appreciative of your generosity, and this community is just really cool. I just love it. Knitters supporting knitters. Anyway, I told you to be short, so I'm actually gonna make it a little longer, because I want to talk to you a little bit about the kitchen. I do have some, and I'll pop some pictures on as I go. It's getting pretty close to the design, finalizing the design. I think last time the designer had told me that she didn't think the design I had provided as a basis for the renovation had a wow factor. So she came back to me with something I didn't like, and I gave her my feedback, and she came back to me with another design that I really love, which I'll share with you as I'm talking. And I'll now have like counter height seating for two, as well as the window bench that I wanted. So I'm very excited about that. I think that'll be really great. And I'm not giving up any cabinet space. My cabinet space will be similar to what I have right now. A couple of the things, adding that feature ended up requiring that I have a narrower fridge, but it turns out what I was losing in width, I could gain in height. So I have the design has a very tall, slender fridge. And the other thing that I really tossed and turned about, and I think I firmly have decided, is a microwave, like a built-in microwave. I originally was going to have a microwave built into the cupboard, and then it looked like it needed to be over the range in order to just be more space efficient. Because again, the whole space is only 8 by 10 with a weirdly placed window that we were grappling with, which you can see in the pictures. Where she's got the window. My window doesn't have the panes that she drew on there. Mine's just a traditional, like, half, what do they call that? It's escaping me, the one where you raise it like that. It's that style window, but it's very tall. We have very, very tall windows in this building. So she and I both at the same time came to the conclusion that the microwave needed to be over the stove, over the range. And she wanted me then to, I'm like, this is a great design, I love it. I had a moment where I was like, I'm not sure I even need a microwave. Like, maybe I don't need a microwave, because the microwave that she drew was huge. It was like the average ranges in like oven, surface range combo pieces are 30 inches. That's standard in the US. So she drew the microwave 30 inches wide, which I was like, that's such a big microwave. Maybe I could have a smaller one. I don't really do much with a microwave except to reheat food. And then one of my friends said, oh, half height. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I could do that. So I found one for her. I found one and shared it with the designer. And I was like, what about this? So she first drew me the design with no microwave. And then so I could see what it would look like and how much I would gain, just having a visual. I mean, again, it's a small space, so I think less busy is better. And also the pictures are not the colors I'm picking. These just were colors that she used for the renderings. We're going to figure out the colors when I go to their showroom and figure that out. Half height. So then she said to me, cool, you like everything, commit to the models, commit to the brands and models that you're going to use for appliances, so we can tighten up the measurements and have everything go together seamlessly before you place an order for cabinets and then end up like choosing a different model. So I did that work the last couple days, and in my research I found that over the range microwaves are really awful. It turns out microwaves that go over the range are made by one company. I think it's a China-based company, and it doesn't matter what's on the surface, whether it's an LG brand or Samsung or GE, they're all made by the same. There's one company that makes them, maybe two, but they work together, and it's just, they're bad. They're like, so I read this review of this person who owns dozens of rental apartments, and he said that was fixing the over the range microwave was his most frequent repair, and that usually it starts with the handle falling off. And then it just spirals downward from there, and that replacing them is really a pain in the ass. So I was like, wow, maybe I don't want one of these. And then I was also reading about how badly they vent. So it's over your range. It's meant to be your vent. Yeah, they're bad. So I was like, okay, I think I'm going to go back to no microwave. And then I did a little research, and one of the things that was recommended was to get a small microwave. Like, they make little ones that are like just big enough for a dinner plate, and put it inside a cupboard. And I was like, oh, I think I could do that. So I'm going to pick up a small microwave and make sure I like it. Because they're not expensive. Microwaves are cheap. And they also, so I like the idea, I think I like the idea of a small countertop microwave that I just put in a cupboard. I just have to make sure when the electrician comes that I have a cupboard or two that have outlets in them, which I think will make sense anyway. There is one cupboard that has it looks like a bread box, like it has a door that opens this way, which would be perfect. Like if it opens that way and then slides, that could be where the microwave is. Because it looks like the perfect size for it. So I may take the measurements with me when I go look at the cabinet styles and stuff with the designer, to figure out if that'll work. So that's where I'm at right now. I figured out all the appliances. I finalized it in my head this morning, and then I'm just letting the list sit so I can kind of think about it until Monday, to just make sure that those are the brands and models that I want. But I'm kind of limited because I'm doing a induction range with a convection oven, but all in one. There aren't a lot of those. There's a few choices. They're all around the same price, unless you go crazy and get like a professional chef version, and then you're spending a lot of money. Probably my entire appliance budget on one thing. And then because of the size limitations with the refrigerator needing to be up 24 to 26 inches wide and tall, again, there's not a lot of choice. The place I'm putting the fridge is not piped for water, so I won't have an ice maker in it, which is I'm fine with. I don't necessarily need an ice maker. I don't feel like I need an ice maker. I like my big fat cubes that I'm able to get using ice trays. I mean, it's just me. If it was a family living here, or if I was doing a kitchen for a family, I would probably absolutely get an ice maker. There is an ice maker in the fridge, and there is water in the fridge, a water spout on the inside, so you won't see it. That won't be connected. And there was no option to get that size fridge without water and ice that I could see anyway. I even looked on brands' websites too, just to see if there was anything I was missing. I mean, maybe there'd be one like in an off sale or something, like a closeout kind of thing, but that's fine. They just won't be connected. They'll be there, but they won't be connected. Apparently those also break first in a fridge, so I'm kind of glad. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't need those, and it's all good. Especially in this, we're in the region of New Jersey that I live in, we have hard water, a lot of calcium in the water, so I see calcium deposits whenever the water around my sink splashes and dries on the surface of the sink. I'm like, oh, calcium. You can really see it, like little white circles. So it's probably for the best to not use pipe calcium rich water through little tiny tubes that are going to need to be replaced at some point. So that's where I'm at with the kitchen design. And once I finalize everything, the design and stuff that I want, and put the deposit down on the cabinets, then all the other work can get scheduled and arranged. So we'll get going. There is one major thing I need to do, though, before that work begins, and that is to pack up the kitchen and move it all over here into my living room, and live with boxes of kitchen stuff for a month or two. Yikes. Not looking forward to that part. We'll see how it goes. I hope he's fast. I think he will be. It's really going to boil down to how quickly the home inspections happen and how quickly how much of a delay there is on those and how much of a delay there is on getting the plumber in when he needs to be here and the electrician in when he needs to be here, because usually those two tradespeople come a couple times. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So that is where I'm at. I hope you enjoyed getting a little peek at the designs. If I have more to share next time, I will. If I don't, then it just means that there's nothing shareable. And yeah, anyway, I can also share that perhaps there will be a new cast on with me in another week or two, because I did finish a project. I'm gonna rest a bit and just work on the projects that I have on the needles currently without putting a new project on. But when I'm ready, when I'm starting to itch for a new cast on, I will definitely do that. And it's going to be one of the other two that I talked about, either the blue and white sweater, plaid colorwork sweater, or the stripe, hand spun self-striping sweater. I'm leaning more towards the self-striping just because that's going to be more wearable for the spring, early summer, even fall transition period. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you have a wonderful couple weeks, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.